continues to be horrid. You got a defensive coordinator that shouldn't even be a coordinator in the National Football League.
Cleveland Browns scored 49 points.
The Dallas Cowboys are on pace to go down as the worst defense in the history of the National Football League.
Stephen A. has been ripping the Dallas defense all year long. Well, now they have hired former Falcons head coach Dan Quinn to be the new defensive coordinator on a 3-year deal, taking over for the fired Mike Nolan after Big D's defense had one of the worst seasons in Cowboys history. Now, Stephen A., I know Quinn's tenure at Atlanta didn't work out so well, but let's not forget he was with Seattle when they were that formidable defense, the Legion of Boom, right? That's really his bread and butter. Stephen A., do you think Quinn is a good hire for the Cowboys at D.C.?
I doubt it. I mean, listen, I'm not the one to call about supportive words for Dan Quinn, only from this perspective. He, as the head coach, presided over one of, if not the dumbest play that I have seen in the modern football era, where an onside kick is aimed at the Atlanta Falcons, and they treated it like it was a punt. I mean, they literally, you're not one, not two, not three. You had 6 different guys that didn't know the rule. 6 different guys. Just an absolute abject embarrassment, okay? And they lost that particular game 40-39 after being up by about 14 points with less than 5 minutes of the game. It's just an atrocious situation. Having said all of that, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, there's really not much way to go but up. You're the 28th ranked defense overall. You were second to last against the run. We all know that. They gave up 39 to the Falcons, 38 to the Seattle Seahawks, 49 to the Cleveland Browns, 34 to the hapless New York Giants offense, by the way, 38 to Arizona. That was 5 straight weeks they did that. 5 straight weeks in the National Football League, okay, which they started off 2-4. They ultimately ended up giving up another 41 to the Washington football team on Thanksgiving. I'm sorry. It's just funny to me. They gave up 41 on Thanksgiving, okay? Well, they gave up 34. Thanks. They gave up 34 the next week to Baltimore. They gave up 33 to the San Francisco 49ers. They were putrid. So when you look at it from this, listen, there's no way to go but up. Dan Quinn certainly knows something about football. There are some people that aren't meant to be head coaches, but I'm not going to sit up there and knock him for being a coordinator. He's got a good reputation as a coordinator. He's no Mike Nolan, who had the 31st ranked defense in Atlanta in 2014, couldn't get a job ever since until Mike McCarthy grabbed him from the scrap heap. This is not Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn knows football. Dan Quinn had a stellar reputation as a defensive coordinator. And if he ends up in Dallas, I have no problem with it. I'm just saying that was the location of one of the dumbest plays in NFL history. And he was the head coach that presided off of that. But in the end, I can't knock it. I just think that there's a black cat running around. And no matter who goes there, they go to Dallas to get their reputation smeared. No matter how good they look elsewhere, when they come to Dallas, they never look better.
I think it's a good hire. I do think it's a good hire. And let me just say that he was the defensive coordinator, for the Legion of Boom. He won a Super Bowl and went to another Super Bowl and did a very good job. Now, he had name brand guys on that defense who were indeed star players, not just in name star players. Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman and those guys, Earl Thomas, were studs, right? Who does he have right now in Dallas? Well, actually, Dallas has some name brand guys. The problem is they haven't played that way in the last year or two. When you look at Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, Stephen A., it wasn't that long ago I thought that's the best linebacker tandem talent-wise maybe in the league. No, they're not. DeMarcus Lawrence is a name brand guy who's had some excellent NFL seasons, but they weren't performing up to snuff this year. Is that because they suddenly lost their talent? Or is that because of the defense itself, the defensive coordinator? And also, the defense clearly lacks depth, too. They need to focus on that. I think that Quinn has a history of getting the most out of talent. So whatever is there on Dallas, I think he'll get the most out of. Also, Dan Quinn's reputation as a head coach. Now, look, I get it. The Atlanta offense was high flying until they don't have the same offensive coordinator and then not so much. Yeah, I get that. But he went from defensive coordinator of the dominant unit in the NFL that went to 2 Super Bowls and won one, to head coach of the dominant offense in the NFL that went to a Super Bowl. And yes, they had a spectacular collapse in order to lose, but that's what it took for them to lose. They were in another Super Bowl. Dan Quinn has a track record of success, in fact. And too often, I think, we focus on where he came up short, but look at his track record. He's been very successful. I think he's a good hire for the Cowboys.
No question, especially if you stay focused on what he did as a defensive coordinator, specifically with Seattle. Dallas's defense, second worst in the NFL.
Agree his accuracy. Again, I haven't seen much of Justin Fields. I know that he's a stud athlete. I know that he can move the chains. I know that he can make things happen. At one point in time, I remember being on this show and asking those college football aficionados, how close is it between him and Trevor Lawrence? And religiously, they all said, it wasn't even close. Trevor Lawrence was on another level compared to this guy, even though he clearly outplayed Trevor Lawrence in that college football playoff matchup against Clemson. Ultimately, what it comes down to is this. On the NFL level, we're looking at the Lamar Jacksons of the world and stuff like that. And you got to ask yourself a question. If you're kind of suspect throwing the football, but you're an electrifying athlete with electrifying wheels, that would be one thing. I haven't seen the second coming of Lamar Jackson. I haven't seen anybody at the quarterback position that can run the football the way that brother can run the football. Even though you got cats that can move, they've got some wheels on them. Now we got to get to the throwing. And how good is it going to be? How tall are you? Can you see over opposing defensive linemen coming your way with offensive linemen that are tall, blocking for you and stuff? That vision, that kind of stuff comes into play. I just think right now when we're looking at Justin Fields, if you know how Max, you know how Mel Kiper and Todd McShay and others, as thorough as they are, you can pick apart a game, 2 games, 3 games, and say, hey, we saw this, and that's a red flag for us. It remains to be seen what is out on Justin Fields right now, but I think the fact that it's a question mark, we can't definitively say after last night, Max, that you're going to look at Justin Fields and automatically say he will be the second quarterback taking in this upcoming NFL draft. We can't do it, and that's where it is right now with him.
Everyone has a very short memory. Justin Fields should be the second quarterback taken. By the way, where is his draft stock right now? I mean, there was a point earlier in the season, Stephen A., you alluded to it, where it was like, are we sure Trevor Lawrence is better than Justin Fields? He's had a few uneven performances, Justin Fields. He hasn't been perfect. But the fact is, what a short memory. You know why Clemson wasn't playing yesterday? You know why Clemson wasn't playing? Because Justin Fields threw 6 touchdown passes against them. He had over 400 total yards. He had, in a game that he had to be at his best, he played the best game of his career. Now, you mean to tell me because you can't beat Alabama, who some people are saying today, and they may be right, this version of the Alabama team may be the greatest college football team ever. And because you didn't win that game, all of a sudden, like, you may not be the second quarterback taken. Let's look at what Justin Fields, what is he? Does he have size? Check. Does he have an arm? Check. Can make all the throws. He has a strong arm. Is he accurate? Yes, he's a very accurate passer, actually, with excellent touch. He has arm talent. Can he move? Is he mobile? Check. He can run. What doesn't Justin Fields do? No quarterback is perfect at this stage. People complain, and I understand why, about like the internal clock in terms of how to deal with the blitz and all that stuff. Well, that's a lot of young quarterbacks. And even we talk about that, even older quarterbacks. I understand because Brady's not mobile. But it's like in boxing, Stephen A., when they say, go to the body, this guy doesn't like it in the body. No one likes it in the body. Of course, pressure on a quarterback is tough for any quarterback, particularly young ones. I'm not claiming Justin Fields is perfect. And by the way, against Clemson, and that came into this game, he had the hip pointer problem. The dude's in a lot of pain. He threw those 6 touchdowns and produced over 400 yards of offense in a rout against one of the major